to writers, scholars, and poets in India, Pakistan, and around the world. Uh, Today, I, Dr. Shaminas, welcome you all on behalf of Progressive Literary and Cultural Society. So, as the famous post colonial critic has said, Bill Ashcroft once said, literature cannot be trapped into national boundaries. This is true in the context of some scholars who are respected beyond geographical boundaries. So, today we have an eminent South Asian scholar who is not only respected in her country, Pakistan, but in the literature community in India as well. Uh, we are having a life and work series of Dr. Munazza Yaqoob, ma'am, who is from Islamabad, Pakistan, and talking with her is a dynamic scholar, Sonia Eram, who is also hailing from Pakistan. So let me introduce Sonia Eram first. Sonia Aram is an educationalist and blogger. She has recently completed her PhD from the Royal Holloway University of London, UK. She works as a lecturer in the Department of English Female Campus, International Islamic University, Islamabad, Pakistan. She has presented papers at various national and international conferences and seminars. Her academic and creative works have been published in National International Journal of Outstanding Nature. She has organized many seminar, international conferences and discussion centers on building bridges between student community and civil society. She is member of many academic institutions like ICLA Congress, International Comparative Literature Association of India, Association AICC, Comparative Literature Association of India CLAI, and ACLA American Comparative Literature Association. So, Sonia, I welcome you. Over to you now.
Thank you. Thank you, Shaminaz, for introducing me to your brilliant forum and giving me an opportunity to interview one of the best mentors in Pakistan. So I welcome Dr. Munazza Yaqoob to today's discussion. Ma'am, lots of students are here to watch you, and students who have been appointed abroad in different jobs, they are watching you and they've been sending me texts also. But for all the international audience or those who do not know Dr. Munazza, just a brief introduction. Dr. Munazza Yaqoob is the chair of the Department of English, founder and director of Critical Thinking Forum, CTF, and director Institute of Professional Development. That was your previous post. So she completed her postdoc in 2016 from University of North Carolina, Wilmington, USA. She's a member of ICLA Congress, International Comparative Literature Association, and ALIC, Association International de Literature Compare Paris, CLI, Comparative Literature Association of India. And she's the author of 2 books, Nurturing Creativity in Literature Classrooms, Cognitive Teaching Model for Developing Creative Thinking, and An Introduction to Pakistani Women Writers. She has had numerous research papers published in national and international journals and has also edited the book Muslim Women Writers of the Subcontinent. She has presented papers on a number of national and international forums and organized many national and international conferences and seminars. Her research interests include comparative literature, post 9/11 literature, peace studies, literary theory, ideology in literature, cultural studies, feminism, South Asian fiction in English, critical and feminist pedagogy, and environmentalism and literature. She has completed 2 fellowships, Susi Scholar Pakistan for U.S. Institute on Culture and Society at Multinational Institute of American Studies, MIAS, New York University by the State Department, U.S. Embassy in 2014, and Australia Awards, Women in Executive Leadership Pakistan 2018-19. She has also worked as a project director of the CTF's grant project titled Consciousness Raising of Pakistani Women on Contemporary Academic and Social Issues, in collaboration with Department of State, U.S. Embassy Islamabad, and the Australia Award Project, Gender Balance in the Workplace, in collaboration with the University of Queensland, Australia. So that was really dynamic introduction. But first, as a student, Dr. Munazza, I've been your student. And it's an honor for me to interview you. And I've always, since I was your student, I always wanted to interview you, and I never knew that after my PhD, I will get this opportunity to interview you. So my first interview is that as I was reading through your introduction, I see that there has been shift when I go through your CV. There has been shift from classical studies to theoretical debates, like to feminism and then environmentalism. So, was that a deliberate movement towards different forms of research? Because I've read all of your articles. So, how did you progress from classical studies to the contemporary debates that are going on in this world? So, would you like to?
Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening to Shamina, Sonia, and all those who are listening to this conversation. Sonia, you have just started interview and started asking questions. You see, the reason why I accepted to be here online, because to begin with, Shaminaz is a good friend, and I deeply appreciate her efforts to promote literature and culture across the borders. Number two, second thing that I thought that, and I assumed, and I think I was right in assuming that it's going to be a candid conversation instead of a formal interview, because after you see, you yourself introduced me that I've been presenting various forums, so formal presentations are there, but I would like to keep it a very light conversation. Is it possible?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yes, sure, ma'am.
So, what you asked? Okay. So, you asked from the classical literature to the hardcore theory in my recent year. You see, in Pakistani universities, when I did my master's in English, mostly British literature, which we call English literature, was taught. Most of the courses, a few courses in American literature, and most of the courses in English literature, which was dominantly British literature. So I did my master's there back in mid 90s, and so when I started teaching, I started teaching from the courses which I had already read in my poetry, classical fiction, and romantic poetry, romantic literature. And I think that was somewhere in 96, 97, 98, perhaps the late 90s. So I taught those courses and I did publish a couple of articles on classical poetry as well as romantic poetry and this literature. And later on, you see, you grow as a teacher, or you grow as a person. Even your intellectual pursuits, they also start evolving. I think one of the interesting development which happened in our university was when I joined English department in Islamic University. It was a one unit. It was simply a unit of Center for Basic Studies, which which was to and it meant to teach English language to all the students who were offered admission in our university. But in 96, 97, our head of department, then I was a junior teacher, decided to launch English literature program in the department. So I and some of my other colleagues were asked to develop some courses in literature. So, along with the many courses in English literature and American literature, one thing which I think was and it was a milestone in my later career was thinking about developing a course on Pakistani literature in English with my other colleagues. I think particularly Dr. Safir Rawan, he was interested. He worked on that. I also worked on that. And it's interesting to mention that back in 97, 98, except Tariq Rahman's Pakistani literature in English, there was hardly any critical book available on Pakistani literature in English. And we wrote through our librarian letters to different libraries in Pakistan, and we collected newspaper essays and book chapters and whatever was available. And so in this way, I started teaching Tawfiq Rafat, Daud Kamal, and Zulfikar Ghaus's fiction. And I think I'm happy that was very my initial effort of reading Pakistani Anglophone literature. And I did publish a paper on Murder of Aziz Khan by Zulfikar Ghaus, how fiction represents Pakistani reality back in 60s after the partition. So I forgot the rest.
And you also wrote one paper on the muse, poet, and creativity. That
That
was
was
like
on classical
on
poetry.
classical poetry.
Yes, on classical poetry, Milton and Spencer and all that. Yeah.
All right. And after that, if I go through your research publications, I that there was a shift towards most of the pedagogical practices, like how to teach, in the classrooms through various pedagogical practices. So, how was you inclined to those
Yes, a
those
sort of
papers?
shift from classical literature teaching to theoretical pedagogical approaches. Yes, it was because I took admission in PhD while I was doing my coursework. Uh, I think that was somewhere 2004 or 2003, 4 or 4. Uh, our PhD, you see, the course was under the nomenclature of the program was Advanced Integrated Studies. PhD integrated study, literature was the major, but that gave us space to study courses like educational theory, educational psychology, and particularly critical literary theory of the 20th century. And I can't forget, you see, what I learned from one of my very good teachers, Dr. Saida Asadullah. She's no more with us. And Dr. Riaz Hassan, she taught literary theory and post-colonial literature. And Dr. Riaz Hassan, who taught us educational theories. These two courses particularly, they were a sort of you say milestone in making me to make this shift from classical literature to literary critical approaches towards literature and pedagogy of literature. So I decided to I did my thesis with Dr. Saida, and I decided to write on or conduct research on uh, how to develop creative critical thinking and how to develop the cognitive abilities of literature students in literature classrooms so that we can prepare them for the 21st century. That was actually this thinking. I think it was uh, developed by the courses I read during my PhD and some of the projects which I did with my teachers. And that, I think, after 2007, I started writing that how much important it is for a teacher for a teacher to help his or her students grow their cognitive abilities, to think critically, to think creatively, how to use the contents, if they are literature or literary classics or romantic poetry or any other course, because I worked on these pedagogical models. So critical education, developing critical consciousness and critical thinking, that was the area I took from educational psychology. I blended the critical theoretical approaches to this, and I came up with a model of teaching literature that can help students to grow their cognitive abilities, particularly their higher order thinking order skills. And you see, I was very happy when I did that work. Many people within Pakistan, when I was conducting the survey, that was the first phase of my studies, they wondered that if this thesis can be called a work within the field of English literature. But the Higher Education Commission and the rest of the people who were in board of studies and faculty boards and all that, they accepted it. So that's why my interest, later on I wrote a few articles on developing critical
Yes.
creative thinking.
There were your articles like Rural Response Theory towards a Cognitive Framework for Teaching Literature to Second Language Learners.
Yes, and
And then you
developing
had,
creative thinking, yeah, all
yes,
that.
and then you had Education for Social Change and Evaluation of
Yes,
Feminist Educational Pedagogical Models. You also had Reader and Text Literary Theory and Teaching of Literature in the 21st
yeah.
Century.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had Developing Creative Thinking using Cognitive Model in literature classrooms.
Yes, I
Now,
consistently worked for a few
yeah.
years on this.
Yeah, and your PhD thesis was also on cognitive and creative aspects of teaching and learning. So I would just, because lots of your old students are watching, would you like to mention your marvelous students that you worked on?
Yeah, you were one of those students who were my who participated in my experiment, which I
And we didn't
conducted.
know that. And we didn't know that we were the part of
Yes, I
it.
was teaching. I had to teach for my PhD dissertation to four courses. You see, of romantic poetry, classical poetry, and fiction. And I gave two courses to my colleague to teach, and two courses I taught myself. So you were
Yeah, you
you,
started
and
with
there were
romantic
some other
poetry.
students. They were my experiment group, and there was the other class. They were the control group. So I conducted that. It was an experimental study. So I conducted that research. You and Farhana Shamim, uh, Uzma
Ola,
Abed. There were many other Fola.
Ola, Mevish,
Yeah, yeah. I
Ishmael,
think
and
you
all.
should you better answer this question that the experiment which I conducted on developing critical creative thinking of the students of literature, you you participated in that study along with your other friends. You should ask this question that
No,
did it
you
work?
asked, yes,
Did it make any difference?
because first, as a, like, we were very scared of you because you were very strict in your teaching. You're very disciplined and strict. So we were very scared of you. But in the first class, when you started giving us a kind of a free hand, you would ask us our own interpretations, and that was a new thing for us. That never in our life we have been asked to give our own interpretation. It was all the poet said this and the author said
Yeah.
this, and we
Because
started
I
writing
bet
in
you,
this way.
I think I help you to see and to understand and to accept that red flowers are not always red and green leaves are not always green.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was one.
Dismantling
Yes,
this such
yes,
views.
yes. That was one of the most, you can say, most that you would invite all the interpretations. Sometimes you would ask a simple question, and we were very afraid to answer just because of fear that we might be wrong. But then you taught us that your interpretation can never be wrong, right? We can always can see different perspectives of the same thing. For example, in one of the classes, you were teaching us Hamlet, and you asked that why he was pretending to be mad. He first came to Ophelia, and then you asked a simple question: why he came to Ophelia first? And I remember we all started thinking, and there was a silence in the class, and what to answer. I knew the answer. I just said it. I just said it with a very feeble voice, so that if I'm wrong, nobody can hear. But I think you heard that, and you asked me that why. And when I gave you the answer, and you were like, "Yes, you're right." I said, "But that's a simple question." I said, and then you say that why you always expect the teacher is going to ask a difficult question, and so that's how you would. And then when you gave us journal writing, you would bring
Response
the
essays,
poets.
journal
Yes, you would
writing.
bring the poets out of us, and then we were able to write creatively. That's how you made us study, and
And a
you
culture of debate, dialogic,
yes, yes,
conversational classrooms where the
yes,
teacher is giving a lecture. I don't give
yes,
lectures. All my students who are listening to me, I think
yeah.
they can be the witness. I just do not deliver lectures in the class. I talk to the students.
You
It's
always
always
make
a
it.
conversational.
It's always interactive. You would, and simply sometimes you would just leave the class if you wouldn't participate because you wanted time when the teachers would which classes they never
Because
stop
I want I,
speaking.
I want their cognition to be active. I wanted their thinking processes to be active, and they should be using their minds. They should be processing information. They should be making inactive information, inactive knowledge in their minds active. So this is possible if they are engaged in conversation, if they are engaged in dialogue, if they are engaged in responses and in reflections, not that only when the teacher is giving them all the information. So that was the model which I developed, and I practiced it there, and I've been practicing it. You see, it's more than a decade now after my PhD. And so far, it's been a very successful teaching experience for me.
So
And I think,
how long have you been in the teaching field?
oh, it's a long time, I think, more than 2 decades.
So you always wanted to be a teacher?
Yes, always wanted. I left my, I was selected in the banking council exams. I rejected that. I was asked to prepare for CSS. I didn't go. My own teacher went there and he was willing to help me, but I did not. So I just wanted to be a teacher. I think perhaps this is the best thing I can do. This is what I feel for myself.
Without doubt, yes.
And you know, I was born on 5th of October.
You were born
yeah.
5th
So that's a teacher's
a born
day.
teacher.
A born
Yeah.
teacher.
That's what we always say to you. All right. After that, after your PhD, if I go through your research, but I also find that there's a shift after these pedagogical practices, like from classical work to pedagogical practices. I see an array of research that is based on feminist issues, feminism in literature. How would you comment on that? What motivated you to do that?
I think after my PhD, when I started teaching research students, MS and PhD back in 2008 and 2009, 10, I started teaching, I was teaching them a course, critical literary theory. Feminism is one of the component of, one of the module and component of. So whenever I still remember that it was very interesting for me. Whenever we discussed, you see, the rise of feminism, feminist literary theory, women's issue and all that, I found that I observed that the students, you see, because I teach in the female campus, so the girls, my research students, they always try to relate the issues raised in the theory, discussed in the fictional text, with their life experiences. More or less, what they read in fiction, they found it that they could relate to it. So in our feminisms or feminist literary theories class, it was not only the academic debate derived from the books and research articles, but rather what happens in our society, in Pakistani society and in South Asian societies, and comparison with the Western societies. And that was very interesting for me, and that actually helped, drove me to dig more into feminism's prospects in Pakistan. And one of the interesting development which happened, and I still feel very happy about it, that in 2010, I established a study circle of my research students whom I was teaching, and I was supervising their dissertations on different issues related to women and globalization and such as. So I established a study circle then, and just to say a women solidarity type of model, which would discuss and debate narratives in given fictional narratives, debates in the theory book, and the narratives of the students from their personal life in terms of their relational ability, that how they are related to each other. And it was very interesting development, because that study circle, it became such a dynamic body that in 2012, I developed it with the help of my it started with the 9 students, and in 2012, I developed it into Critical Thinking Forum, CTF, which is now internationally known forum on which people write, and my own 7,000 words book chapter is published in Political Muslims. Contribution in developing the cognition, yes, that was, I received a letter from the editors asking me to discuss the young Muslim mind, how it can be the cognitive abilities, and you see in the context of Islamophobia, radicalization and all that, what contribution women who are engaged in meaningful dialogues and conversation with the ability to think critically, what is their response towards it? And that made me I said I will write on the contribution of Critical Thinking Forum, established in this university, and which is working, because from 2010 to 2012, 2012, if I remember, I worked consistently on women's issues within Pakistani culture and society and South Asian society, and in comparison with the West. And see, I feel that this forum has, this was perhaps one of the pioneering work in Pakistan, which was not only the forum was women-led, but it worked to promote critical thinking and develop women's skill of critical creative thinking, and then develop a meaningful link between academia and the civil society at large, so that the issues could be brought to the table and they could be discussed from multiple perspective with a pluralistic lens. And I'm happy that various generations of the young women, they became the member of this forum, and when they completed their degrees, and I find that they are making difference. Working. I think you yourself was the first pioneer member of that forum, I know, along with Sophia and Amal Sayed, Batul Ishaq, and some other people. I think women are in academia, they are in civil society, they are lawyers, judges, in military. Batul is city commissioner as well. Sonia, I can't hear you.
Yes, lots of, sorry, my mic was on mute. Lots of our friends, they are in Oxford these days. And Rubia is in Canada. So lots of our friends and the members of the forum. Abida Yunus is in Glasgow University. He's completing her PhD. So lots of the pioneer members, they are posted in and they're doing great work in their fields. Yes, Critical Thinking Forum is
during this period, I consistently work with on feminist theory, feminist literature, and I supervised research work of my students on this field. I personally wrote many papers which were co-authored as well as single-authored papers. I think I worked consistently for 5 years.
And I think you have a huge contribution. If I just delimit your contribution towards this Pindi Islamabad, you're the first person, which I don't think anybody can deny that. You're the first person in Pakistani academia, and especially in English department, who actually tried to bring all the authors, all the Pakistani and international authors, to come and visit universities and to develop a link between students and universities.
Yes.
And you are the one who has actually been advising different festivals and forums how to make them more and more meaningful and more interactive with the masses around. Yeah.
One of the important component of critical thinking forums activity was meet the author. So that actually gave us a space to invite authors, and I think
that became
not only inviting authors. Actually, I think what we did it's I'm very happy about this work. Not only because CTF was initially started by English department, but the members of Urdu department and other departments were also, the students were the members from the other departments as well.
Yeah.
So we invited authors not only who were writing in Anglophone, but Urdu fiction writers, Urdu poets.
That's what I'm saying. That
Punjabi writers, Saraiki writers.
Yeah, you just try to just narrow down, or you just try to remove the barrier between the author and the people who were reading their work. So
linguistic barriers, geographical and linguistic ethnic barriers.
So even if somebody was writing, it was not accessible for the masses or the readers to access those writers or authors. So you actually started this kind of interactions between these people who were producing work and those who were actually reading their work or watching their work. So you started this culture. All right, coming towards your your research, and you made like lots of students, they came with the topics on feminist issues in literature. You also produced two works. One was the third volume, like this Muslim women writers of the subcontinent, and which when you were working on this, I would see your students and you searching the libraries and bringing all the manuscripts there, and the students would report there were manuscripts which were just dumped in the lobbies in the libraries, and they were all dusty, and it was actually those students who tried to preserve by getting them photocopied and cleaning them, those manuscripts, and then they got information from those. And while you were working on that, I would find that there were these women writers who were writing in 18th century or 18th and 19th century, and they were very bold in writing certain topics, which I think the women of my age or in this time period, we would sometimes you would just stop. You would not be that confident to write about those issues, but they were writing at that time. So those were really, really dynamic women. How would you comment on that when you research on these women?
Yes, I think I just said that I consistently work on feminist issues and feminist theory. I remember when I was teaching feminist literary theory in my class, in one of my classes back in 2012, 13, see, one day the student discussed the first wave, the second wave, the third wave of feminism in the West. And I asked certain questions about the roots, indigenous roots of feminism in South Asia or in Pakistan. They came up with some name of Pakistani women writers who are writing in Urdu, like Neelam Ahmed Bashir and some other as well. But I said before that, this is the development after 1947. Before that, because we are Muslims, we live in Pakistan. So what is the contribution? How we can relate ourselves? Because you know all the debates of feminism, third world feminism, post-colonial feminism, that the Western model of feminism is simply imported from the West and we cannot employ it here. We had indigenous root. People like Jane Jaspir, we both met her back in 2015 in Jaipur. They're writing on indigenous feminism. So I asked my students that, is there any first wave in the subcontinent? Was there any second wave? And I was astonished because nobody knew it. The wonderful contribution which Indian women, and I delimited the study to Muslim Indian women who made into the development of the indigenous feminism. So we just started reading some of the works from 1870 till 1940, from the first generations of Muslim writer, Muhammadi Begum and other, who were writing back in 17, 18, 19 in Tehzeeb-e-Nisma, Ismat and such other magazines. The first generation of the women writer, their writings were quite conformist to literary and cultural environment of that time. But somewhere in 1930s, with the publication of Angare, we had the dynamic, fantastic women, Rashid Jahan, a progressive women writer who dismantled, deconstructed all those literary canons and traditions and very boldly came up as a progressive writer. So that was, even the first generation women, they were writing the issues which they read, they were women issues, women related problems, their personal and domestic. So they may not be radical writings, but we can trace the roots of writing, tradition of writing on the women issues. So it's from the first generation to the second generation of Rashid Jahan, Ismat Chogtai, Quratulain, Heather. Then we gradually come to Pakistani women writers after 1947. That's why I wrote another book, because I felt I stopped at 1940, 45. The book needs another volume. So I just wrote last year, Pakistani women writer from 1947 to 2017 in which their contribution. These two books are introductory books. They are not very comprehensive, detailed. They are very brief introductory books because I kept my audience, or sorry, my readers, which I kept in my mind were the students of English literature, because the students and researchers of Urdu, they can find a huge research volumes in Urdu written for them. But for the English readers, I think they can give them a brief background to feminism, feminist writing within their own society or the indigenous roots of feminism. I think this develops a more comprehensive. It's a better comprehensive view of the movement if we start reading it from 19th century and later compare it with the Western forms of the feminisms and the feminist theory.
I'm also receiving questions, and that's the question which intrigues us more, and which maybe most of your students who have been involved in feminist research and all that. So if you could just make things easy for us, what is feminism for you?
We say not necessarily their subjugation, subordinated positioning, oppression, any other issues related to women, made focusing more on subjugation and oppression in relation to patriarchal culture and societies. When they are theorized academically, then it becomes feminism. So for me, there are two directions perhaps which we can take. If we want to work for women, basically feminism aim to empower women, to strengthen women, to raise by raising their consciousness, by making spaces in the society for them. So we can take two directions. Traditionally, what was thought, and it was correct, that feminism is an anti-male movement, you see, opposition of male. But gradually the idea developed that the two genders are two components of the society. So we cannot simply and the other stands there. Nothing will come out of prolonged, forced opposition. We need to work in collaboration. We need to take male on board and put these issues and solve these issues, because feminism discusses these two entities, social units. So they need each other. One has to understand the position, the role, and importance of the other. That is the thing. So that we can do by opposition, or we can do with collaboration. So my way is always collaboration. Collaborate. And I think without taking any extreme view, when I see that when I started Critical Thinking Forum, a women-led forum, predominantly the members are women, for the women issues, some of the male within our society, I can't forget the contribution of late Dr. Mumtaz Ahmed, the executive director of Iqbal International Institute, the way he financially and administratively supported us. Similarly, in our pioneer members, there were some male, Dr. Shahid Siddiqui, he is one of them. So I think I like to work this way, and this is my message, because opposition and always an antagonism, it might be constructive for some people, but I don't find it constructive. We lose a lot. We lose our energies. So if we want to strengthen ourselves without losing energies, then we have to sort out the ways of empowering women by taking men on board. And this is possible. I think most of the new approaches to feminism are moving towards this direction.
Yes, and I think that was.
And you see, this reminds me in CTF that most girls who work with me, like you yourself, they traveled with me not only within Pakistan, abroad to America, to Los Angeles, and they worked on me on many other projects which
Which
involved
involved a
working
lot of traveling.
from morning till night,
Evening, yes.
till late evenings, and the fathers, the brothers, the husbands, they all cooperated with me, and they were on board, and I ended up in making good
Yes,
friendships with all of them.
yes, you have very amicable relations with our fathers,
Yes.
and they trust you a lot, and we just take your name. We are just doing this project, and we are going to this
Yes.
city and this country, and they just. And I remember one of our ex-presidents of the university. He once I was in a program in a seminar, and I was just leaving the room, and he said to me that, "Who do you work with?" I said, "I'm in the English department. I'm working with Dr. Munazza," and he said that you are in safe hands.
That was
And
Dr.
really,
Farsan, yes,
yes, and I really like that comment, and that's what our parents and of all the members say that you're
Yes,
in
I'm
safe
thankful
hands.
to the
Yes.
parents of all husbands.
Yes,
Taking
you
their
helped
daughters,
all
their
this.
sisters,
Yes.
their
You helped all those women working with you to make their men in the family understand
families,
and to give them space. And they and it's all going well so far. All right, then moving on to your next recent work that you've been doing there for the last 5 years. We have seen that you have shifted towards the environmental studies in literature. So, what brought you towards this field?
Initially, I remember back in 2009 or 10 when I was teaching critical theory, I didn't know environmental humanities then. I just read eco-criticism, and uh, I read, after reading eco-criticism, I read Mohsin Hamid's Moth Smoke through eco-critical lens. And I found it very interesting that how the environment and the humans, or human beings and non-human beings who are around us, how they are intimately connected in a larger biosphere. So that was very interesting for me. It was an initial attempt, and then I was more engaged with the feminism and the women issues and critical debates on linkages between academia and the civil society and pedagogical models, consciousness raising, and all that. But somehow, that my very little or simple effort, sometimes you write something, and you see, internet is a source which connects you people you don't know. I received an email back in 2014 by editors of a book who were working on a book volume called Eco Criticism of the Global
Yeah,
South.
it was this one.
Yes, and the name which was there, that was Scott Slovic.
Yeah.
You see, the pioneer of eco-criticism, one of the
the
greatest
contemporary
contemporary
book
scholars of and the critic of environmental humanities. He was the editor, and the two editors were from India. So, and that was a pleasant surprise. They asked me to write a chapter for this volume on environmental consciousness in Pakistani literature in English, and I did write it, and it was published. And during that process of writing that chapter, I think I read a lot on environmentalism, environmental humanities, and I found it very interesting. Not only interesting, but a sort of I felt that it's now, as a teacher or as an educated member of our society, perhaps now it's my duty and responsibility to raise environmental consciousness in people, because from 2014-15, in the recent 5 years, climate change is no more simply a TV talk. Climate change, global warming, environmental disasters, they have become a reality, and there is a looming threat of that the planet is going to be destroyed, and this pandemic You see, it has reminded us how important this life which is around us, and we are so careless about it. So I think now it's more than an academic interest. Rather, I feel a responsibility on me that I should read. I should be socially engaged with an awakened environmental conscious, and in the work which are to to you see, what should I say, that to make simple efforts and pay attention to our day-to-day daily routines, that how much damage we are causing to the non-human life around us and to the environment, and to make the people, because I teach as a teacher, there are young minds who I interact with them every day. So now I made environmental humanities and eco-criticism a component or a module of all the courses which I teach. It doesn't matter if I'm teaching comparative literature, environment and literature, or literary theory, or I'm teaching fiction. I make environmental humanities a component because this is that I can do. So I think feeling it like a responsibility, a social responsibility, being a responsible citizen, uh, I'm engaged with environmental humanities, and it helped me to establish another forum when I invited in 2016 Scott Slovic to Pakistan, and to my great surprise and pleasure, he did find time to visit Pakistan, and
Yeah.
I inaugurated. You were there. We inaugurated Azle Pakistan. The forum is still just struggling uh, to gain its strength, and I'm working with my research students, and I'm waiting that they complete their degrees, and like you yourself, you have just completed, so that I can make a team, the team who can run this forum as well. So I think I've been writing recently. I just submitted an article uh, which I expect will be published next year. And this year I published on Uzma Aslam Khan's miraculous history of Nomi Ali.
The toxic legacies.
It is also, yes, it is post-colonial environmental study of that how colonialism or the legacies of the colonialism we are facing in the form of environmental degradation of the region.
Yeah, I think that's your one of the latest articles, and that's being well received, I've heard. And would you like to tell us about, because you also did a project on with the women with the U.S. Embassy on the women in the social and academic issues, and how women can empower themselves through consciousness raising. Would you like to tell the audience?
Yes, it was a project of Critical Thinking Forum. In 2015, we applied for an open grant, international grant it was, under the heading of Women Empowerment. The grant was by U.S. Embassy. So we applied for that grant, and we won that grant for 2 years. And it was a consciousness raising of Pakistani women on social and academic issues. I engaged all my students who were studying courses with me or doing their research with me in 2015, 16, 17, and 18. So 2-year project was, it was a successful project. So that's why I was also granted extension by the funding agency. And we had 6, 7, or 8 months, I don't remember, extension, and which involved a number of feminist consciousness raising roundtables, national, international conferences. I remember our women led with the women participants conference which I arranged in 2016 or 15, I don't remember, with this funding. That was
the Women in Media Conference?
No. That was perhaps something of solidarity, negotiating differences and developing solidarity, women in Pakistan, something like that. I don't remember the title. But I invited the women from all over Pakistan, and we talked about various issues in that. It was 3-day conference.
Oh yes, it was consciousness raising of Pakistani women, negotiating differences and building alliances. It was in
Yes.
December 2015.
Yes, it was
Yeah.
the theme was very important. There were women from medicine, women from law, women from religious studies, from the social sciences, from literature and arts and humanities, NGOs, activists, academics, artists, all the women from all the fields. I invited them, and most of them they made it. And I organized this conference in the female campus of our university. It was a success. So it was a successful project, and it also involved a lot of travel. Within Pakistan, we went to Gilgit-Baltistan to meet the women artisans, the women
Yeah.
artists, the teachers, students, women in professions, and we also had wonderful, very useful panels in UK with Pakistani and Indian communities, Bangladeshi communities, and also in the US, panels on the images of the women, the solidarities, intersectionality, and so many other things which we discussed. It was a very dynamic. Those were very dynamic years. I remember which when I conducted. It was difficult, but we did it.
Yes, we did it.
And
yes.
I'm thankful to the team. I'm thankful to all those people who supported me for that project.
All right. And I'm receiving questions from friends. Okay. One of the questions is that you have mostly been working with young people. So what is your motivation behind that? Why you choose, like most of your close connections are young people. So how do you
Yes.
plan that? Is it deliberate? Is it deliberate, or is it like coincidentally you happen to work with them?
It's difficult to say it's deliberate or I just do it because you see I love young people and I want to work with them and intimately because as a teacher I feel that I should work with these young fresh brains so that I could see the future of Pakistan in safe hands. People not only equipped with the critical thinking skills, but people who are creative, tolerant, with the refined emotions and good manners and devotion and commitment to 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 their responsibilities and to their society. You see, this is thing as a teacher, some of my ideals, and I think these ideals I can invest, I can transfer to young people who are much younger than I. As a teacher, this is my duty, and I do this duty or I carry out this duty with love. I love them, and I care for them, and I want them to learn and be very constructive, critical, but constructive and creative member of Pakistan society. I want to see the future of Pakistan in these hands. So perhaps this is the reason that I don't mind and I just don't feel how much time has passed when I'm with them. I keep talking to them, they keep sharing with them. Not only the young people.
Yes, I was going to. Yes, I was going to ask
with very
you
young
about it.
people, with
Yeah.
very young children as well.
Yes, we have seen
They
you.
are
We've
the
seen you with we have like small kids. Like you have a 5-year-old son, and you share a very intimate bond with him.
That bond, I love that. It is so extraordinary. It is such an extraordinary relationship, such an extraordinary feeling you have. I remember I was reading autobiography of Bertrand Russell, and in which he talked about his friendship with a young man, and he said that he met that young man when he was 3-year-old, and the friendship which was formed then with a 3-year child, it developed into an intimate friendship till he became a young man. So I adopted my nephew, my sister's son, and I enjoyed that friendship with him. I felt that, and then now I have adopted another son, and he's a 5-year-old. He's at my home since he was, I think he was 1 day old. When he was born, he was brought to my home because I requested them for that. And you see, not as an adult in a traditional relationship, you can raise them up, but you can enjoy an intimate friendship with these very young, very fresh minds, uh, unspoiled, and they're not corrupted by the world. So when red flower appears to them as blue, I do not correct them that it's not.
Yes, I know you do
I
not
try
correct their
to see,
pronunciation, you do not correct
yes,
their
I
grammar.
try to see that flower as blue through the lens they are using. I do not correct if they are using wrong pronunciation. I do not correct when they are using wrong grammar. What dress they like to choose, what is the color of the trouser, and whether the shirt matches with it or not. No, at all. So this, I help them to grow with their own mind. There is a discipline because I'm adult and elder, like a mother with them. So they know they're elder. If something wrong will happen, I will try to protect them, help them. But whatever space they have, little acts which are harmless, no matter there is matching or there is no matching, it's blue or it's red, whatever they say, khushbu is khushbu or it is khashbu, it's acceptable. So I love that relationship. It makes me fresh. Perhaps it is a link between the world and the heaven where I stand with them. This is how I feel with them. Intimation of immortality. It's the best thing.
Beautiful. That's
I
beautiful.
advise all to develop intimate friendship with very young kids. They are beautiful creatures. A link with the heaven, with the intimation.
But, you have been to Bangladesh and India. What was your experience of meeting those people?
Wonderful experience as always. You know that I love traveling. I love traveling within Pakistan, outside Pakistan, meeting people, seeing different cultures, living different cultures. I went to Bangladesh because the conference was arranged by the editors of this book, that is the Global South, Eco Criticism of Global South, Scott Slovic and the other two professors in collaboration with Dhaka University. And it was a wonderful experience. And I developed some lifelong friendships, not only in Dhaka University, but also the other university, that is Nagar University. Some of the professors are good friends, and we still have good communication with each other. In India, I also visited in 2015. I was invited by the organizers of the conference, Professor Chandramohan, a conference under comparative literature of India. I think that was conference was arranged under that platform.
Yes, Comparative Literature Association of India.
Yes, and it was it's a long story. Despite all the visa restrictions and other, I was granted visa. I'm thankful to Pakistani Interior Ministry and Indian Interior Ministry. You see, what I feel honored is when they granted me visa, it was written exempted from police inquiries. You see, I was not subject to report to police stations that I'm here and I'm doing what. Usually this restriction is with the visa, Indian visa, but I was granted exemption. And that was a respect they gave to an academic. We are teachers, we are academic. We work for the brotherhood and we carry good feelings for each. And they are harmless people. May not be. Some people are very ideological, unfortunately. But again, who are harmful and who are harmless, that is ideological debate. I don't want to put myself there. I think of myself as a human being, and I want to extend love and friendship to all those who are constructive and to share the same with me.
All right, Dr. Munazza, what are you currently working on? What projects are you engaged in these days?
I'm working one very significant project that is very interesting with the Teesside University, UK, with Dr. Rachel and her team. That is uh, mentoring of early career women research mentoring. We are trying to work with the women in Pakistan to equip them with the skills of academic writing and academic publishing, how how to write research articles and how to get them published in international journals. As we have selected people, we are organizing workshops and mentoring sessions with them. So this is an interesting project on which I am currently working. At the same time, environmental humanity is my another area. I'm writing, conducting some surveys, working with some students. I think these are the things which I'm doing.
All right, we have just one more question. That will be the last question, and they're asking that you have worked on Pakistani and Indian writers. How do you find how would you compare the writers of Pakistan and India, literary writers? Do you think Pakistani writers have made a significant presence in the international?
Yes, sir. I think 2000 Pakistani writings in English, you see, from Sulfikar Ghosh, then to Babsi Sidwa, to Sara Sulehri, and then we come to perhaps this the writers after 2000, 2001 and 2 who emerged on the global scene and they made their presence very powerful, like Mohsin Hamid and Muhammad Hanif and Islam, Usma Aslam Khan, Kamila Shamsi, and so many more. I don't understand in terms of comparison. What do you mean?
It's not clear, but I would just ask you that to the themes in literary works. Of course, there's not just, yeah.
Anglophone writers are all, you see, taking up the themes like progressive writers. They are most are anti-capitalist, anti-globalization. They are talking about the women issues. They are they criticize the patriarchal cultural interpretations of the religion in South Asian societies, and they also present a very strong criticism of the economic class disparities and social injustices. So I think all of them are working on the issues which are very progressive issues, and I appreciate their work. I appreciate the work of all of them. The contemporary socio-economic gender issues, political issues, they have their eye on them and they have forcefully presented them not only within Pakistan and South Asia, but on the in the global market, on the global literary scenes.
All right, and just one last thing: any message that you would like to give to the young researchers?
I mainly teach women, and I've been teaching them for a long time. And I listen to during our consultancy hours and sometimes even in the classes. I listen to the issues they face in their domestic space, in their personal lives, and generally in within the culture and society. I feel that particular my message to the young women researcher is to prioritize things in their life, and they have to set up their priorities. It's important to have a happy personal life, to be happy in personal lives. Personal lives mean our home, our parents, husbands, children, siblings, and other personal things. But if we engage ourselves in academic and research pursuits, that also becomes one of the important pursuit in life. So how that is an issue which is discussed in contemporary feminist theory, how to maintain this balance between the personal and academic, between the personal and the professional. We have to prioritize. What, what, whatever we prioritize, we set up that priority. We may be very selective in that, and then we have to work with the commitment, with the devotion. Otherwise, we'll be lost. Otherwise, their energies, their talents, they will be lost. So it's very hard. I know Pakistani South Asian women, young women, they are struggling to have this balance in their life. They are losing their energy, being torn into these two. So my advice, my message, there are ways. We do not have some ready-made solutions that they can do this, they can do this. No. Our personal lives, our homes are important. Our children are important for us. Our parents are important. Our relationships are important. So are our careers. So are our academic research pursuits. So we have to see the various dynamics, sit, engage in dialogue, talk, have the conversations, share with each other without any fear, so that we come up with some of the solutions which can help us to carry out our pursuits. But commitment and devotions, honesty with the cause, that is very important. Otherwise, we'll be lost. We'll lose our energies.
That's all from my side. Thank you very much. Yes, Shaminaz.
Ma'am, I just want to share some experience with you, and I also have some queries. Like, ma'am, when I was doing research on South Asian women writing, and specifically on Bapsi Sidhwa of Pakistan and Shashi Deshpande of India, and Bangladeshi writer Taslima Nasreen. At that time, ma'am, it was way back in 2008. I completed in 2010. So, ma'am, I had problem with on Pakistan because books were not available and we cannot um, order from Pakistan. At that time, Flipkart and Amazon services was also not there. So, ma'am, at that time, I read some of your paper on internet. Though at that time, internet was not so popular. So I read some of your papers, and then when I started using Facebook, so I contacted you. Still, I have been reading some of your paper, ma'am. I want to ask you: do you see South Asian writing? How do you see South Asian writing in the international literary circle? Because still we don't have Nobel Prize winner, we don't have many Booker Prize winner. Though in India we have four Booker Prize winner, but we don't have second Nobel Prize winner.
When I forgot the name of the writer, but when I read the book on culture of literary marketism or literary markets, commercialization. So I don't want to comment on the criteria and the related controversial debates on who wins the prize and why they win the prize. So that's a separate debate. But I admire the work of South Asian writer. It doesn't matter if they have won the prize or they haven't won the prize. The socio-cultural realities, the alternative history of the region as these writers present. See, the Western writer cannot present of this region. So that is the biggest contribution. I know most of Indian cultural things, social issues, Bangladeshi cultural issues, historical and the historical, the history of the politics. Through the literature which I have read, because I am the student of literature, not student of history. I read history, but in relation to the literary works. So as a new historical lens of reading of literature has, you see, it has explored through the new historical literary reading lens, we explore the political histories, social histories, cultural issues, economic class problems, gender issues through literary works. And these writers present them, they have the authenticity to present these issues, to explore these issues. I would even, you see, I didn't know much about the indigenous communities of Indus Indus Valley. When I started reading Usma Aslan and gave the, you see, history of that indigenous communities of Indus Valleys, it led me to read the other documents about that valley. I was reading uh, The Hungry Tide by
Amitav Ghosh.
Ghosh,
Yes.
and then I remember the massacre of that forest and all that, save the wildlife movement, whatever happened with the immigrants, displaced people, and how the whole issue was politicized. What massacre happened then? So I think some of the deep-rooted issues of our societies, some of the deep-rooted problems of the societies, and not only the problems and the issues, but the highlights, the culture, the society, the beauties, the powers which we have, the the good things which we can share with the world. We can explore. We can get that data from these literary work of South Asia. I think we need to evaluate these work from this perspective, uh, not from this angle that they are award-winning works or they are not award-winning works. Perhaps Indian and Pakistan, mainly Indian, and then later on by Pakistani and Bangladeshi women writers, fiction writers, they have hugely contributed in developing the theory of uh, Indian South Asian feminism. I must say, the way they take these issues and highlight them, we don't find them this representation and this discussion in Western literature. And why should it be there? So I think we shouldn't judge them from that criteria. That is a different.
Any female or male?
You see, it's always a difficult question for me. If you ask me, even Pakistani writer, I don't have one name. I read them, and different writers have different things to offer to a learner, to a literature learner or a student of literature. So I just cannot say that this person is my favorite, this author is my. It's hard for me to say this. Really, I am very honestly saying this.
Ma'am,
I
don't.
read the women writers. I
Okay.
read this. See,
Rashid.
Vikram says
Vikram.
this Ghosh and what was
Arundhati.
the name? Who wrote the White Tiger?
Arvind Adiga.
Arundhati Roy
Arvind.
and
Arvind
Arvind
Adiga.
Adiga.
Arvind Adiga.
yes, Arvind Adiga and all that. I I read their works and they appeared to me literary works. All these works have something to offer me in my for my research, for my academic pursuits, and also for my they add to my knowledge and information along with the literary aesthetic which they hugely offer. They have their own styles of writing. They have their own aesthetic ways of representing the reality. So the aesthetics of their work, the representations which they do, I admire as a student of literature. So I cannot simply say that I like this writer and I like this writer. There are different things in all of them.
Ma'am, when I talk to international scholar regarding Indian literature, so they have few women writers' name in their mind like Arundhati Roy, Kiran Desai, and Anita Desai also. Mainly Kiran Desai, Arundhati Roy. But ma'am, no, most of them have not read about Shashi Deshpande. And you know, Shashi Deshpande is very popular in India. Lots of work has been carried out on her, and mostly research and research paper are written on her. And because she has written more than 11 or 12 novels, and in all of her novels, she has discussed about the different shades of a woman's life, her psyche, means how an urban educated woman is adjusting in traditional atmosphere. So in all her novels she has discussed about women issues, but I don't know why, means Indian women, about Indian women issues, but I don't know why she is not so popular. And you know, in India she is the most popular writer, and my research work is also on her.
Uh, I think we have to promote a culture. You are talking about her popularity within uh, uh, subcontinent. I mean, South Asia. You are talking about
Means she is very
you are
popular in
talking
India.
about internet.
Ma'am, she is very popular in India,
Uh,
and she is the strongest voice and representative of women of India. But I don't know why she is not so popular around the world. And if you read, you will yourself connect to all her
Yeah, she
writing.
was
Yes, Sonia.
she was given the Padma Shri award also.
Yes,
it was given
huh.
Padma Shri award.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
Sahitya Academy Award twice. And I don't know what is the criteria of the world looking at our literature. Do they like to look South Asia on conflict base? Means they want to read conflict of about India and in South Asia specifically.
Not necessarily. You see, Jampal Ari never wrote on these conflicting issues, political issues. Even then, she is very popular. Kiran Desai. But Arundhati Roy's case is different. But the other writers didn't raise those political controversial issues, but they are popular. So about Shashi Deshpande, I reserve my opinion because I don't see it that way. It's just the, the research interests of people, the areas which people take, or perhaps now we have, you see, a culture of promoting the authors and the writers. There are different forums. So perhaps such attempts can be made to bring her work into light or into the focus of the larger public, perhaps.
Ma'am,
Then
she
people
is
start
means
exploring the
she
work
mean,
because there are many authors within Pakistan, even. There are many writers who are writing well, but they are not very popular. That is the main reason because we need to focus, we need to bring them into the focus of the larger public. And that can be done through different forums or different research works, promotional, you see, campaigns and all that. That can be done. It's not that. Yes, you are right. In a way, people who write on controversial issues, uh,
gain
they get
popularity more.
fame. Yes, that may be for the larger audience, for the public, but those who are serious students of literature and the scholars of literature, they are always looking at the work from the different angle. And some of the people, they are not very popular, but their works are very important and they hold important place in the scholarly works.
Ma'am, her novels are translated into many international language, even her stories also. But when I talk to international scholar, they only take the name of Arundhati Roy, Kiran Desai, and one or two Arvind Adiga. Means I think that is why I told you now their mainly focus is on
Because they are in the news.
Booker, Booker Prize winner,
Because they
Pulitzer.
are in the news.
Even Aga Shahid Ali, if you read his poem, Aga Shahid Ali is written so nicely, and he became popular recently. He was not so popular earlier. And ma'am, like I
And
like,
also the thing is,
huh?
and also I think Deshpande says that She never adopted it as a career. It never came to the writing. Never came to her as career. She was when she was she after her marriage when she moved to England. There she felt that isolation of a woman, and then she started writing about. And when she came back, her husband actually encouraged her to write about that experience of being isolated woman in
Innocent
England.
abroad.
That's how she started. I think the first one was the legacy, and then it was her father who actually asked her to publish that work. So that it gets documented in the history, and then that's how she started writing.
Her father was a famous Sanskrit scholar. And ma'am, one thing I liked that you said, now we don't see indigenous feminism. So if we go back, ma'am, if you and Sonia have read Amir Khusro's poems, he used to write in Khadi Boli. That was at that time Hindi or Urdu was not there, so he used to write in Khadi Boli. And there are some songs which he wrote like 700 years back. Kahe ko ब्याहे विदेश लखिया बाबुल, about a girl who is going to get married, and at that time when a girl was married, it was very means it was next to impossible to her to come back to her parents house. And अब जो किए हो दाता ऐसा ना कीजो, अगले जन्म मुझे बिटिया ना कीजो. So if we see our roots of feminism, so then we should look at our indigenous writer. If these songs are written 700 years back, about female consciousness, then when we talk about feminism, we should think that these are also our roots of feminism. So, this was my last query.
Yes, yes. So I just wanted you to say a few sentences in Urdu. You are from Allahabad, Lucknow, and all that. Can you speak a few sentences in Urdu?
Yes, ma'am. I write in Urdu. I'll read.
To speak.
Yes, ma'am. मैम चलिए अब अपनी जबान में बोलते हैं.
कुछ सुना दें.
अब अपने लोगों के लिए मैम, इंटरनेशनल ऑडियंस के लिए हो गया. मैम आई एम अ बाइलिंगुअल राइटर, मीन्स मैं दोनों ज़बान में लिखती हूँ. मैम एक्चुअली हम लोग कहते तो है कि हम हिंदी बोलते हैं या उर्दू बोलते हैं, लेकिन जो हमारी ज़बान है मैम नॉर्थ इंडिया की, वो ना मैम वो है सिंथेसिस है और उर्दू की, ये मिली जुली भाषा है. जैसे हमारा हिंदुस्तान का कल्चर भी मिला जुला है, तो मैं ज़बान भी मिली जुली है. हिंदी और उर्दू की मैम इस ज़बान को हिंदुस्तानी कहते हैं. तो मैम बस आपको अपनी एक छोटी सी नज़्म सुनाएंगे. लोग सोचते हैं वो रोक देंगे मेरे कदमों को, शायद उन्हें इल्म नहीं, दरिया हूँ रुकूंगी पर थमूंगी नहीं. देखे हैं ज़माने में बहुत दौरे सितम, ये ज़र्फ़ है अपना किसी के आगे कभी झुके नहीं. औरत को अक्सर कमज़ोर समझता है ये ज़माना, पर हम मर्दों से ज़्यादा फौलाद का जिगर रखते हैं. उन्हें आता है लड़ने का बहुतेरे हुनर, हम शायर हैं बस कलम से जवाब देते हैं. मैम फिर कभी मौका मिलेगा फिर सुनाएंगे. मैम आप लोग के लिए, आपके और सोनिया के लिए बहुत सारे मैसेज आ रही हैं मेरे पास, मेरी टीम से, बहुत सारे फ्रेंड से, कि आप लोग को दोबारा बुला जाए. तो आप लोग से रिक्वेस्ट करते हैं मैम, हम लोग एक सीरीज चला.
अब तो हम ये नहीं, अब तो ये कोविड-19 खत्म हो तो कोविड-20 ना हो, कोविड ना हो तो हम तो बस अब इलाहाबाद ही आएंगे.
इलाहाबाद आइए, आपको बहुत अच्छा लगेगा. कैशरा शराज मैम से आप उनका एक्सपीरियंस पूछिएगा. 3-4 साल मैम, जो कुछ लड़ाई झगड़ा है ये सब पॉलिटिकल है. अगर ग्राउंड लेवल पर देखेंगे, कोई भी यहाँ पर आता है उसको उतनी इज्जत मिलती है. कैशरा शराज मैम यहाँ पर आई थी, उन्होंने लेक्चर दिया था एक यूनिवर्सिटी में, एग्रीकल्चर यूनिवर्सिटी में, फिर उसी दिन एक कॉलेज में, और उस कॉलेज 25 जनवरी था मैम. 26 जनवरी हम लोग का वो होता है ना, रिपब्लिक डे होता है. तो अब सोचिए एक पाकिस्तानी को इलाहाबाद जैसे छोटे शहर में, शी वॉज गेस्ट ऑफ ऑनर, और उनको बहुत रिस्पेक्ट मिली. तो मैम ये सारी चीज़ें हैं ना, आप लोग हम देखते हैं मैम, ना आप लोग के अंदर हम लोग के लिए कुछ है, ना हम लोग के लिए वटेवर है, वो जो कुछ भी है वो सियासी है. और जहाँ तक हम समझते हैं कि मैम हम लोग एकेडमिशियन हैं, हम लोग का काम है प्यार बांटना. तो मैम आप लोग को फिर हम लोग बार बार इनवाइट करेंगे अपने फोन. जी मैम बताइए.
Thank you so much, Munazza. बहुत अच्छा लगा. Sonia, thank you so much. It was I was happy to have engaged in this conversation with you. And so I think it was first time in my life that I talked about my teaching and about myself. I never talked
Yeah,
about
that's why I wanted you to be candid, because though we are your students, but we do not know a lot of
Thanks to
things.
you.
But as students, we want to know a lot of things about our
Yeah,
teachers.
thanks to you and to Shamanaz as well.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you,
Thank you so much.
Shamanaz, and
And
thank
ma'am,
you
you
for
know,
Metropolitan
my
Cultural
team is
Society.
requesting me to
Thank you so
invite
much.
you for our, we have Hindi Urdu poetry reading session sometime. हमारी भाषा हमारी पहचान. So they have asked
Okay.
me to invite you in that, and they have also requested you to, both to be a part of our family. Whenever you want to have time, you can give lecture topic, you and Sonia, through our forum. And you know, this conversation is very much liked and appreciated by all. And thank you so much, ma'am, and thank you so much, Sonia. And it was such wonderful, and means more than 1.5 hour passed, and we did not realize. I didn't realize. Means I was lost in
Yeah.
ma'am's talk. And ma'am, you talk so softly. Means if a teacher talks so softly, means students are bound to hear. Ma'am, I'm also considered as a strict teacher, but you are also strict. I felt happy to. I feel happy to hear
Sonia is
that.
laughing. Her laughters can tell you what you are saying.
Ma'am, I was in engineering
No, no,
college.
you are soft spoken. Yes, I don't
Ma'am,
doubt that.
ma'am, I was in engineering college, so mainly boys were studying there. So student used to be scared from me in the beginning, but जैसे जैसे सोनिया ने कहा ना, बाद में वो भी वो घुल जाते थे. तो जब when you were talking ना, so I was missing those days. हमें वो पुराने दिन याद आ रहे थे. तो मैम, we have to, as a teacher, we have to be a little bit strict also, because nowadays students are mostly engaged in other activities. They don't like to pay attention to studies, और उनका ध्यान सोशल नेटवर्किंग साइट और अदर एक्टिविटीज़ में रहता है. तो उनको ज़रूरत है मैम थोड़ा सा स्ट्रिक्ट रहने की. आई होप मैम भी इस बात से एग्री करेंगी. सो मैम, आप दोनों का बहुत बहुत
Okay.
शुक्रिया.
I agree.
एग्री करती ना मैम? मैम, आप दोनों का
Okay.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया मैम.
Thanक you.
ये एक
Thank
तरह
you
से
very
इज्जत
much.
अफजाई
It was
है.
an honor. Thank you.
इज्जत अफजाई है. थैंक यू सो मच मैम.
Okay.
और मैम,
Okay.
आपकी भी, आप लोग की फैन
Thank you
फॉलोइंग
so much.
देखिए. Lots of people have connected with us virtually. So I thank all the people who have connected with us virtually from India and Pakistan
Yes,
and around the
thank you.
world. Thank you so
I
much.
also thank all of them for listening to me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Allah Hafiz.
Tata. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Hafiz.